All right, welcome. Today we're going to be going through Dotloop 101. We're going to stay very basic here, and I'm going to try to be as brief as I can just in the beginning part. I know that the attention span on a lot of this stuff is not very long, so I'm going to try to break this up into multiple videos the deeper that we get into Dotloop. But for some of you guys that are just getting started or you're coming back into Dotloop, you haven't used it for a while, I just want this to be a refresher course and an onboarding, so that way you guys can get familiar with the basics of Dotloop, because it is a very important tool for our brokerage, and I think it's going to help your business quite a bit. So jump right in. I'm going to start right here. This is going to be the dashboard. So when you sign in, this is where it's going to bring you. Every one of these transactions, this is called a loop. And what you're seeing now is my view from the admin. This is every loop that's been created by any agent here in the brokerage. So when I see all of the loops in here, what's really important to me, and the first thing I want to point out, is make sure that you've got the type correct, you've got the status correct, you've got the price put in if that's possible, and the closing date. I know that'll be something that may change, but the best that you can do to have this updated correctly. Let's jump right in and create a loop. So once you hit the add loop, what we're going to work through here is if you were creating a loop, you just got a buyer, you're starting to shop with them pretty actively. Let's just say that we're going to call them, this person's name is Sarah Smith. So I'm going to put Sarah Smith in here. This is my buyer. We can always change this later. So hit continue. And for the template, I'm going to click buying template. Continue. The photo is totally optional. This is not something that I've gotten in the habit of doing. On that front page, you could tell some loops had pictures and some didn't. It really doesn't make a difference to me. If that's something that you want to do, that's perfectly fine. But I'm not going to be a stickler on that. I don't think it makes any difference. So once we finish creating the loop, this is really what I want you to remember. Please, please, please. Status. This is going to be a pre-offer. We haven't done anything yet. We're in the pre-offer stage. It's going to be a purchase. We don't know the price and we don't know the closing date. Once we know that, please, please, please update that. That's how we sort and categorize when we're going through compliance to make sure that we've got everything looked at, and nothing slips through the cracks. So please, if nothing else, remember to please update that for me. Once you've gotten to this stage, go ahead and hit view loop. And what you're going to see here, you'll see what we named the loop. We named this one Sarah Smith. And in a buyer's template, what we've done is we have created a small checklist for you. So you'll see 3 folders. We've got contract documents, inspections and invoices, and buying documents. I want you to think buying documents is anything that's going to be pre-offer. We've got the exclusive rights to represent, exclusive right to represent. You've got your purchase agreement, which would be your offer. You would also have things in here like your disclosures, your summary of rights, your escrow agreement documents, maybe an inspection waiver. Anything that's going to be pre-offer is going to go in your buying documents. The 2 that we're requiring as a brokerage would be the exclusive right to represent, and then the offer. These 2 that you see that it says required. That just means that when you upload a file, you have to have these 2 in this folder before you submit it. So if you look through, once we get into contract documents, that would be the purchase agreement. Once it's ratified, the receipt of the earnest money. And this is really important. This is something that we've added recently, the final settlement statement. This needs to be uploaded in the loop before you get paid. This is one of the things we have to keep this for a minimum of 3 years. If we don't have it in the loop, that's just one other place that we can keep it. So that way we make sure that it doesn't get lost if for some reason we need it down the road. So this will be the final thing that you need to submit before you get paid. It will go in contract documents. The third and final folder here would be your home inspection and invoices. Obviously, any inspections, home inspection, termite, I&I, any invoices, estimates from contractors, quotes that come in, this is where that would go. So at a minimum, you can see that the ones that are here, these titles that are required, this is the minimum that you're going to have in each loop. And I'm going to show you how to add a document real quick. So let's just start. Sarah Smith has decided we want to make an offer. We want to make an offer, but we don't know what property yet. When she's been pre-qualified, we know we want to work with her. We want her to sign an exclusive right to represent. I would go to add document. Um, uh, as of right now, we are still using zip forms. So if you need some help with getting into zip forms and writing documents that way, please let me know. We can certainly discuss it. We have the ability to write contracts and documents in Dotloop. They just don't look quite as clean. I don't like the way that it turns out, so we're still doing zip forms. Later on, if that's something that we want to start doing, is using Dotloop to write our contracts, I'll certainly do a video on that. But for now, we are still doing everything in zip forms, saving it as a PDF to the computer, and then that's when we're going to bring it in to Dotloop. So we are at a point where the PDF is already saved on the computer. So I'm going to hit browse. And I'm going to find where it went. So here I've got exclusive right to represent buyer. So I am bringing that in, and you'll see, I'm going to click over here. I'm just going to click add document again to get that to go away. You see that it brought it in right here. It's the bold one. So I know that I need to put this here because this is one of the required files. All you have to do is click and drag it, and it has now replaced. So that is now filled. So if you click this, you can see that the document that we filled out in zip forms is now here. One of the required documents hasn't been submitted yet because we don't have signatures on it. That would be the next step. So if I'm in here and I'm at this stage and I'm going to get Sarah Smith to sign this, I'm going to hit add signature. And I'm going to go down. We'll just go down to the bottom and pretend that we're going to get her to sign this. This, I believe, is actually a exclusive right to sell, but you get the point. We would add signature. We would assign the field, and then we would bring in who we want to sign this. So you would say add person, and I'm going to say Sarah Smith. And we'll just make up an email, sarahsmith@yahoo.com. You have to have a name, an email, and you have to give them a role. So she's going to be our buyer. Add person. Sarah is now here. Let's go ahead and just put her up here, even though this would be buyer. Okay, so let's say we're done with this, and we want to send it to her for signatures. We would hit save and share. She is checked. This says can sign. The options here are view only, can edit, and private. This should only say can sign. There's no reason for anybody to edit this file ever. View only would be if we are sending it after it's signed to somebody else. We'll get to that in a second. She can sign. We would go ahead and hit share. I want to stop here and make sure that you guys are very clear. When we send it off to get signed, send it to your buyer or seller first. They need to sign it one at a time, and then we can sign. We have run into when multiple people are trying to sign at once, or we're trying to sign it while they're signing it. Dotloop thinks that we're still editing the file, or they're trying to edit the file, and it just won't work. So one person at a time. Let your client sign it. When it comes back to you, then you can sign it. But I know that that's a little bit different than some of the other e-signatures, but it just cleans it up. Dotloop is trying really hard to make sure that there's no issues as far as authenticity of who is signing. So please keep that in mind. So they've signed it. It's in here. We're good to go. This is a point after they've signed it. You would click here to check it, and you would go to the top and you would hit submit for review. So something that, and I'm going to send this out as instructions, but anytime you get a document back and it has been signed, that's when we need to submit for review. What that does is that comes directly to admin, and it shows us, hey, this has been signed. I need you to review it and make sure that we didn't miss anything. We didn't forget something. Doesn't matter how long you've been in the business, how long you've been doing this. We all forget things. We all miss things. Please submit it as soon as a signature has been put on it. So that way we can look at it and just have a second set of eyes on it. That's going to hold true to your buying documents. Once you write the offer, everybody signed it, submit it. And then especially with your ratified documents, the EMD, things like that, submit them as soon as possible. So that way, if something is missed, we can address it as soon as possible. So You don't need to add me or any of the other admin at the office to the loop. You can see here we are in the loop already. So all you would do is you would click the documents that are ready to be submitted and reviewed, and then you would hit submit. Uh, don't share it with me personally because then that creates a second loop. I would have a loop and you would have a loop. And it just gets messy and really confusing on the back end for that. So one transaction, one loop. I'm going to scroll down here to show you if you want to add other people to this loop. Let's say you've got the other agent or you've got a lender, you've got title that you want to add. Same deal. You would just hit name and email. You would select if the listing agent. What I do want to point out is we never want to add them to our team. This just creates a lot of conflict. It's going to ask them to create an account. They're going to sign in. So just remember, do not hit this. Even if it's somebody here at the office, don't worry about. Just never check this. So I think that as far as buying, if you get to a point where you are ready to change some of the information, you can simply click on the name here. And let's say that this is now 123 Main Street. Can't type. It's that simple. It's now saved. And so now if we go back to our main page, we can see that 123 Main Street, it's purchase, it's a pre-offer. Again, please update the sale price and the closing date. So that is the basics for how to create a loop, how the order and the names should go. And so stay tuned. We'll do another video